Hello again. I've been looking for a small LNER locomotive. I have the Flying Scotsman, but I've always thought it looks a bit silly, the big Flying Scotsman locomotive with three coaches. And because this is quite a small layout I've got, I thought, let's get a small, LNER locomotive, a little tank engine or something. So anyway, yeah, I bought this, and I got it very cheap, and it's a lovely little tank engine. Bit disappointed there's no floor in the cab. I might do something about that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's missing a hook on the front coupling, but other than that, it's in perfect nick. So let's give this a little run and see how it goes. So when I put this locomotive on the layout and gave it a test run, I was absolutely astonished at how quiet it is. Now, you have to understand, I've not had anything to do with any model railways for since about 1978, 1979. So, things have improved a lot, clearly. This is quite a new locomotive. In my, perspective, it's quite new. And when I ran this thing, I was astonished. I mean, let's just put it on. It's so quiet and smooth. The only other tank engine I have is my old Wren LMS tank engine, and it's nothing like as quiet and smooth as that. Okay, so I'm going to bring around the LNER engine and just nice and quiet. And then I'll bring around the old Wren LMS. Listen to this. So that's quite a difference. There's clearly nothing wrong with this, it's running perfectly, but I really can't resist opening this up and having a look at it, just to see what's so different. Why is this so quiet compared to the old engines? So let's go and have a look. So I did a little bit of research about this particular Hornby model, and they were made about 1997, 1998, so this is just over 20 years old. I haven't looked at any service sheets or anything, so I have no idea how this thing is put together, how it works. So this is going to be possibly a bit of a puzzle for me, because normally, I'm used to working on the old Hornby and Hornby triang stuff that has a screw down the chimney on all the tank engines, but this one doesn't. So the only obvious thing I'm seeing is the rear screw. The coupling on the rear screw there appears to be holding it together. So we'll undo that first of all. A screwdriver. Okay, so we'll take that coupling out. I'm not going to dismantle this model completely because it runs so nice. I don't want to do any damage to it, leave well alone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So does that pull out? No. There is a little lug in the end there, and I can actually see a tiny wee scratch in it, so I think somebody's been in here before. So it kind of looks like that pushes in. I think that screw holds the coupling onto the chassis, but it's not connected to the body that I can see. So let's get a little screwdriver. There we go. That's what I thought should happen. Not the easiest way in the world to get that out though, I must admit. Oh well, look at that. Oh, that's nice. A couple of nice weights in the body. A locomotive needs a bit of weight to get good traction, stop it bouncing about over points and things. So That's good to see. Yeah, still no R number in this thing. That's unusual. They always used to have the R number on the bottom, but yeah, not on this. Nowhere. Okay, so put the body to the side. Now let's have a look at this. The main thing I'm interested in here is why is this so much quieter than the older models? Because looking at this configuration, it's kind of just a sort of a modernised version of an XO4 motor by looking at it. The armature is much smaller. Instead of the big magnet at the back, there's a magnet on top. You can see there's a magnet underneath and on top of the armature. So two magnets instead of the one, by the looks of it. It's a bearing at the back there. I might just put a tiny wee drop of oil in that. Have a look at that. Yeah, I mean the commutator, I can't actually see it, it's encased in plastic. The commutator and brushes are in there, much smaller brushes. The fact that the armature and the commutator and the brushes are a bit smaller than the old ones, that will make it a little bit quieter. And the plastic casing around the motor, just like a modern car, you know, you open the bonnet and you can hardly see the engine because of all the plastic casing. But yeah, so possibly it's just, you know, it's better machined, it's smaller, it's more compact, so that will help reduce noise. That's going to be a bit of a bugger to change the brushes though, because I have to remove this plastic casing, which will be that screw there, I would imagine. I think. I mean, at some point I will dismantle this just to learn how it works. But I'm not going to do that just now because it would just be like the thing, I'll break something, or because and you know, I want to get some pleasure out of running this locomotive for a little while before I bugger it up. But I'll maybe try and get a service sheet for it and have a look just to see exactly how it all goes together. So I've got some idea of what I'm doing when I come to service it. But there's nothing there that scares me. Yeah, okay. So the motor, yeah, smaller, more compact. It's a plastic worm gear and a plastic main gear, which again, plastic on plastic is going to be quieter than metal on metal, so, or even plastic on metal, so that's another reason why it's going to be a little bit quieter. But generally speaking, if you run one of the old motors on their own, they're not that noisy. So I'm kind of more interested in what's going on with the chassis, because you know, normally, you know, you spin a motor, it's fairly quiet. It's just when you attach it to the chassis and run the locomotive along the track that the noise is generated. So let's see if we can remove. I'm going to take this front coupling off first, just to, for starters. And then obviously I'm going to have to take these two screws out. And that then appears to just want to come off. Okay. Oh, alright, that's interesting. If you look here, there appears to be what looks like brass bearings. In older models, the axle just goes straight into the body, so the metal chassis and the axle are just making contact all the time, and that's, you know, noisy. But these two bearings, or bushes, or whatever you want to call them, I mean, I would call them bearings, are minimising the amount of contact between the axle and the chassis. So that will hugely help reduce noise. Whoops. Let's see, why does this one not have any bearings? Oh, this is a real voyage of discovery. There's a couple of little springs. You can see them. That can only be to act as a little bit of suspension. That's interesting. But why? I'm not quite sure why we've got suspension on one axle and bearings on the other, but there must be a reason. But yeah, I mean, I think there's the main reason that this is so quiet. We've got bearings and suspension, we've got minimal contact between the axle and the chassis. That's why it's quiet. Just a little bit more precision engineering going into the model, which is good to see. I'd love to see, just while I'm in here, what the condition of the motor is, because I've obviously no idea when this was last serviced. So, but I can't. Let's try a second pair of glasses. Where are my other glasses? What have I done with them? On my head? Nope. There we are. Let's see if I can see with the two pairs of glasses. No. See, I can't really see because if you can see, the brushes are hidden behind this plastic sheet. That's the brush there. If you can see it, this little brass thing here, that's the brush, and the commutator is just underneath it, and then it's shielded with this piece of plastic. But I can't quite see. I tell you what will be useful here. These things. These are like eyeglasses. Just make sure I turn them on. But these are brilliant for seeing stuff close up. So yeah, the commutator's fairly clean. There is some carbon deposit on it, but not too much, and I can see there's enough on that brush anyway. Look at the other side. Yeah, that looks all okay. Just have a close look at everything while I'm at it. God, there's a lot of fluff on it. An awful lot of fluff that you don't see when you just look at these things normally, but you look through these eyeglasses and you see stuff that you just wouldn't normally. The armature's nice and clean, so yeah, it's all in tip-top condition. So let's put this back together. Now, need to watch and don't mess the quartering up on the wheels, and put the glasses back on. And which are the contact wheels? If you don't know this, if you look at model train wheels, one side is just the metal wheel against the metal axle, and the other side has a plastic bush to insulate the wheel from the chassis. The side with the insulated wheels is the side where the wheels make contact to this contact here, and this is the positive contact. The rest of the wheels make contact with the body, and that provides the negative contact, so you have the complete circuit. So sometimes on some wheels it's actually hard to see the plastic. On some older locomotives it's very difficult to see which side is which, but on this one it's nice and clear and obvious. So it's plastic on this side. So we'll drop in the obviously I have to get these bearings in place. It's certainly easier to add lubrication on this because of the way the axles are exposed, and you have bearings, you know, just a wee bit of grease or oil, and there's your lubrication. This all looks fairly dry actually, so I'm actually going to give this just a few wee spots of oil. Just a wee spot. Come on, come out on there, and on those bearings. Right, okay. Now the conrods are all connected, so the quartering should in theory be okay. So yeah, it looks fine. So if that one's up, that's all fine. Okay. What am I doing? Put this on. Schoolboy error, didn't make a note of how this went on, but which way round? Seems fairly obvious. It goes on there, pokes through, I think. Come on. Sure you went through that. Oh no, see, I got it wrong. Other way around. Normally, when I would have been taking something like this apart that I've never done before, I would have taken photographs of it, but I'm using my phone to film this, so there you go. But there you go, that's it. It's either going to go on one way or the other, so it's not exactly rocket science. And we'll pop these screws back in. I wish that would stand up. Magnetised screwdrivers, so it makes this job quite easy. If you had steady hands anyway, and I certainly do not. There we go. You notice I work on a sheet of paper. There's a number of reasons for that. One, it allows me to make sure that I'm in view of the camera. I know if I'm working on the piece of paper that I'm in view of the camera. For another, it reflects light, which is good. For another, it protects whatever I'm working on from being scratched. It protects my cutting mat. It shows up any dirt that comes off whatever I'm working on, and also it's, you know, lint free. If you're working on a piece of cloth, you risk cloth, you know, fibres from the cloth getting into what you're working. So really, just a piece of A4 printing paper is a really good working surface for anything like this, any fine machinery, whether it's a clock or a model train or whatever. Make sure I've got these contacts behind the wheels, otherwise it ain't going to go. There we go. Right, now put the body on. I've just noticed there's actually lugs at the front as well that fit into a couple of holes just there. So if we line them up first, which is kind of standard with locomotive bodies, fit the front end first and then the back end. Will usually go into place easy enough. And this, press that in. Click. There we go. A little click is a good sound. Okay, we'll put the couplings on. I say the front hook's missing off the front coupling. I've got lots of spare couplings, but not of this particular type. I've got lots of the older ones, so I maybe need to get some spare ones. But to be honest, you know, the coaches that this would be pulling or pushing have a hook, so it doesn't matter too much. And actually, aesthetically, it probably looks better without the hook on the front. There you go. Don't want to over tighten it. So there we go, a very nice little locomotive, bargain buy off eBay, less than 20 quid. And interesting to find out exactly why it's so much quieter than the older locomotives. And I'll certainly be looking at seeing what other bargains I can get off eBay for locomotives from around 1997, 1998 that will have the same, hopefully, be just as quiet. Because once you've run something as quiet as this on your layout, and then you put one of your older engines on, it's like, oh Jesus. So yeah, very interesting. So there we go. See you later, folks.